Hello all, I hope everyone is happy, I hope everyone is healthy, I hope things are going well and that everyone is dealing with this ever-changing and yet never seems to be changing atmosphere to the best of everyone's ability. So when I began Forgotten Gems, and this was when my school was going on spring break. We thought, okay, we're going to be out for an extra week, and that's it, even though I don't think anyone really thought that was going to be the extent of it. At the time, we were just going, okay, extra 2 weeks, nothing to get too concerned about. And as that kind of stretched on, the goal of Forgotten Gems was not just to give me something to talk about and review, because, as I mentioned in that introduction video, that's kind of what I have to do to keep myself sane, but also to give me some variations in viewing. You know, going back and watching some of these movies that I haven't watched in a long time and talking about them, felt like, okay, there's such a variety of genre and decade and year in those films that I felt like it would give me enough variety to kind of keep things interesting, and it has done that. And it will continue to do that. I'm not stopping Forgotten Gems. I still have quite a few on the list that I really want to get to. But as this situation has evolved and yet not evolved, meaning it feels like we've come such a long way, and yet are we still in the same place? I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell these days. But as it looks as though this thing is going to stretch on a bit longer and there's no real determined end point for normality, I started thinking about, I want to vary my viewing up a bit more, and I want to vary what I'm going to be talking about up a bit more than I have. I want to do something different. I have the time. There's things I've always wanted to do. And, in terms of reviews and editorials and whatnot, I was like, well, I've got the time. Let's do that. So, one of the things that has caught my attention, often, is that, today, in this day and age, it isn't an uncommon practice for a film series to go into, part 6, 7, 8, 9, and, beyond. In some cases, if you're looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, that is 20 plus films at this stage, made up of many different subcategories. And it's amazing to me, the film series that have been able to exist past the number 3 mark. Usually what I find, for a long time, trilogies were the big thing. Everything needed to be a trilogy. And that makes sense from a dramatic standpoint. We're used to the 3-act structure. So we tend to believe, okay, part 1, part 2, part 3. But some film series have bloomed past the part 3 and extended even deeper, going into 7, 8s, 10s, 11s. And some of these films and their film series have become pop culture staples. And when we talk about them, we tend to talk about them as a whole, or we tend to talk about them in terms of generalization. Much in the same way I did when I was doing the Forgotten Gems episodes on the Torchy Blane and Maisie series, talking about them kind of general concepts, general themes, and things of that nature. But you don't see a lot of real examining of them as individual films, and then also looking at their place within their larger continuity. So what I decided I want to do to vary up my viewing and vary up my reviewing, which kind of rhymes, even though it's the same word, I want to go and look at some of these popular film series that have extended to a certain point, and talk about them piece by piece. Talk about them individually as films, as individual installments, but also in their place within the greater story or, film series that they occupy. What did this particular film bring to the table? What did it establish? How good is it within its own pantheon? Pardon me. What do different directors bring to the table? What do new actors bring to the table? What does changing times, changing decades, some of these film series I want to talk about span 50 years. So how does the character and the premise stay current? Okay. So yeah, I really want to get into this. I'm looking forward to this, of revisiting some of these movies. Again, as a larger scope, and also within the confines of their genre and their group. So, a couple of ground rules. How am I going to do this? Well, first off, what I review needs to be a series, meaning it needs to be 4 or more films. So things like Indiana Jones doesn't qualify, because Indiana Jones only has 3 movies, and if you think there is a 4th one, then you have been in quarantine too long and your mind is playing tricks on you. There are only 3 Indiana Jones movies. Okay. Also, and this is where personal taste kind of comes in. The films that I look at need to be of relatively positive quality. Now, you're gonna question that one as I review some of these films and some of the series I choose to do. But generally speaking, we need a series that is fairly universally, as much as you can be, agreed upon that this film series has, a pretty consistent track record. So, for instance, things like Jurassic Park, which has one genre and world redefining classic, 2 so bad they're good time killers, and 2 soon to be 3 abominations against God and nature. This is not a good candidate. I'm going to get death threats for this one, but Pirates of the Caribbean, same way. One truly great film, one so-so kind of sequel, a 3rd movie which is beyond confusing, and a 4th that was God. Oh yeah, and there was a 5th one. I totally forgot there was a 5th one, which again points to the problem. So yeah. Number 3, no Star Wars, no Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, this is not a commentary on either one of those franchises. I'm a fan of both of them. But, for one, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is still happening. At least, theoretically. Also, theoretically, the Star Wars Cinematic Universe has, future installments. But also because, and especially I think in the case of Star Wars, more than in the case of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, though it is a point with them, I feel like those 2 film series have already been covered in excruciating detail by literally everyone else. I don't feel there's much more. I already said my piece on Star Wars with my editorial on Ewoks, and I really don't feel I can add much more to the dialogue going back and once again looking at, the prequel series and the sequel trilogy, and it just feels tiring. Plus, I've already reviewed several of the new ones, so I'm also trying to hit series that I haven't already reviewed many of them, if any. So that's kind of the groundwork. That's kind of the framework of what I want to do here. Instead of giving this series one specific title, I'm giving it a different title for each film series that I'm going to be looking at. Probably not going to go in order. I'm probably going to jump around. I don't know if I'm going to binge watch any of them and try to go through all of them. Some of them that'd be very difficult. There's a lot of movies. I'm also not going to, and this is just kind of a preference, I'm not going to be looking at like long-running horror franchises. Again, I'm not a horror person, so I don't have any of those. I don't really care about any of them. Not to say that they don't have merit, just that they're not for me. So that's where we're at. Again, Forgotten Gems will still be continuing, but we're also going to intersperse it with some of these and vary our viewing a little bit. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope you're looking forward to it. I hope you join me, and I hope you enjoy it. So to start out, we're going to look at one of Hollywood's longest running and yet most kind of under-discussed film series. Not so much under-discussed in that nobody knows about them, but in that nobody really talks about them as a whole, or they speak about them in generalizations. We are going to begin with our first installment of the Final Frontier reviews as we take a look at the Star Trek cinematic universe. So I hope you join me, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.